Thousands of travelers are still choosing the wrong Vietnam visa, and it's costing them time, money, and sometimes even boarding denial at the airport. Every week, travelers show up at the airport thinking they can get a visa when they land in Vietnam, and then the airline refuses to let them board the plane. Their trip is basically over before it even starts. Other travelers do get on the plane, but when they arrive, they end up waiting 1 or 2 hours at the visa counter, paying extra fees in cash, and starting their trip stressed and frustrated. And here's the problem. Vietnam visa rules have changed a lot over the past few years, especially from 2023 to 2025. But many YouTube videos and blog posts are outdated, and they don't explain the differences clearly. So in this video, we're going to compare the Vietnam visa and the visa on arrival step by step. In simple terms, we'll talk about the costs, the processing time, the airport process, the common mistakes, and which visa is actually better in 2026. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which visa you should choose, and how to avoid the mistakes that ruin a lot of trips. This is what most travelers are using now, and for most people this is the easiest way to enter Vietnam. The Vietnam visa is a fully online visa. You don't need to visit an embassy, and you don't need to use an agency. You apply online, upload your passport photo and passport page, pay the fee, and then you receive your visa by email. The eVisa is available for all nationalities, and it can be valid for up to 90 days. You can choose either single entry or multiple entry depending on your travel plans. The government fee is currently $25 for a single entry visa and $50 for a multiple entry visa, and this is a fixed fee, so there are no extra stamping fees when you arrive. Another big advantage is that the eVisa is accepted at international airports, land borders, and seaports. So if you are entering Vietnam by plane, bus, or even cruise ship, the eVisa usually works. Processing time is normally around 3 to 5 working days, but during holidays or busy travel seasons, it can take a bit longer. The biggest benefit of the eVisa is simple. When you arrive, you go straight to immigration and skip the visa counter completely. This is where most people get confused, because visa on arrival is not actually a visa you can just get when you arrive in Vietnam. Before you travel, you still need to apply online through a visa agency to get something called an approval letter. This letter allows you to board the plane and then pick up your visa when you land in Vietnam. So the process works like this. You apply through an agency, they send you the approval letter by email, you print that letter, and when you arrive at the airport in Vietnam, you go to the visa on arrival counter, submit the letter, your passport, photos, and then you pay a stamping fee in cash. After that, you wait for your name to be called, and then you finally go to immigration. Visa on arrival only works if you arrive by air. You cannot use it at land borders or seaports. Processing time for the approval letter is usually about 2 to 5 working days, but urgent processing can be done in a few hours for an extra fee. The main downside of visa on arrival is simple: more steps, more waiting, and extra fees at the airport. Here's the difference that actually matters, because both visas will get you into Vietnam, but the experience is very different. First, the application process. The eVisa is 100% online. You apply on the government website, upload your documents, pay the fee, and receive the visa by email. That's it. Visa on arrival is different. You apply online for an approval letter first, but when you land, you still have to go to the visa counter, submit documents, pay a stamping fee, and wait for the visa to be issued. Second, entry points. The eVisa can be used at airports, land borders, and seaports. Visa on arrival only works if you arrive by air. Third, fees. The eVisa has a fixed government fee, so you know exactly what you pay. Visa on arrival usually includes a service fee, plus a stamping fee at the airport, and sometimes extra fast-track fees. Convenience is also very different. With the eVisa, you go straight to immigration. With Visa on arrival, you might wait anywhere from 30 minutes to even 2 hours at the Visa counter. In terms of risk, the eVisa is issued directly by the government, while Visa on arrival depends on a private agency, so choosing a reliable agency is very important. This is where people get into serious trouble when traveling to Vietnam, and these mistakes happen more often than you think. The first big mistake is thinking Visa on arrival means you can just show up at the airport and get a visa. That is not true. If you don't have the approval letter before your flight, the airline may refuse to let you board. Another very common mistake is not printing the approval letter for Visa on arrival. Immigration officers and the Visa counter usually require a printed copy, not just a file on your phone. Some travelers also forget to bring cash for the stamping fee. Many Visa counters in Vietnam only accept cash in US dollars or Vietnamese dong, and there is not always an ATM nearby. For the eVisa, one of the biggest mistakes is applying too late. Processing usually takes a few working days, but delays can happen, especially during holidays. Another serious mistake is selecting the wrong entry port on the eVisa application or entering the wrong passport number or name. Even a small mistake can cause delays, or in some cases, visa rejection. So, Visa on arrival isn't dead, but honestly, it's only useful in some very specific situations when you're traveling to Vietnam. The biggest reason to use Visa on arrival is urgent travel. If you need to fly to Vietnam in the next day or two, the eVisa just might not be processed in time. In that case, some agencies can actually issue an approval letter within a few hours, which lets you board your flight. There's also the case of special business or sponsorship situations. Sometimes companies or local partners in Vietnam can arrange visa approval letters for their employees or guests, especially for short-notice trips or specific work requirements. Visa on arrival can also be an option if, for whatever reason, you can't wait for the eVisa processing time. Or if you made a mistake on your eVisa and don't have enough time to fix it before your flight. But, and this is really important, Visa on arrival should be your backup plan, not your first choice. It works, but it comes with more steps, more waiting, and honestly, more stress when you arrive. For about 90% of travelers heading to Vietnam, the eVisa is just the better choice, plain and simple. If you're visiting Vietnam for tourism, especially for a normal vacation of a few weeks, the eVisa is usually the easiest and safest option out there. The whole process is online, the fee is fixed, and when you arrive, you can go straight to immigration without stopping at the Visa counter. The eVisa is also way better for first-time visitors. After a long international flight, the last thing most people want is to stand in another line, fill out forms, find cash, and wait for their name to be called at the Visa on arrival counter. Another really important situation is land border travel. If you plan to enter Vietnam by bus or car from countries like Laos, Cambodia, or China, Visa on arrival just won't work. The eVisa is the better option because it's accepted at a lot of land border crossings. And overall, if you want a simple process, less stress, and fewer surprises when you arrive, the eVisa is usually the best choice. Alright, so this is where a lot of people end up losing money when they're traveling to Vietnam, because the visa that looks cheaper at first is not always the cheapest in the end. Let's start with the eVisa. The eVisa is super simple when it comes to cost. You just pay one government fee online, usually $25 for a single entry or $50 for multiple entry. And that's it. When you arrive in Vietnam, you don't have to pay anything else. Now, Visa on arrival is a bit different. First, you'll pay a service fee to the visa agency to get your approval letter. This is usually around $20 to $35, depending on the agency and how fast you need it. Then, when you get to the airport in Vietnam, you have to pay a stamping fee in cash, typically $25 for single entry or $50 for multiple entry. Some travelers also pay extra for fast-track service at the airport, just to skip the line. So, when you add all that up, Visa on arrival often ends up costing more than the eVisa. Timing is everything here, and honestly, this is where a lot of travelers make risky decisions before heading to Vietnam. For the eVisa, the official processing time is usually about 3 to 5 working days, but that doesn't mean you should wait until just a few days before your trip to apply. Delays can totally happen, especially during public holidays, busy travel seasons, or if there's any mistake in your application. The safer move is to apply at least 7 to 10 days before your flight. Now, if your trip is coming up really soon and you just don't have enough time to wait for an eVisa, this is when Visa on Arrival can come in handy. Many agencies can get you an approval letter within 1 day, or even just a few hours for urgent cases, but you'll usually pay extra for that speed. Also, keep in mind that during peak travel seasons, airports in Vietnam can get super busy, and the Visa on Arrival counter can be pretty slow, so if you're traveling during holidays or high season, planning your visa early can save you a lot of time and stress. Here's what actually happens when you land in Vietnam, and this is where the difference between a visa and Visa on Arrival is really clear. If you have an eVisa, the process is super simple. After you get off the plane, you just follow the signs to immigration, stand in the immigration line, show your passport and your printed eVisa, and then you enter the country. There's no extra counter and no extra payment at the airport. If you're using Visa on Arrival, the process is a bit longer. First, you don't go straight to immigration. You need to go to the Visa on Arrival counter. There, you hand over your approval letter, your passport, your photos, and the stamping fee in cash. Then you wait for the officers to process your visa and call your name. After you get that visa sticker in your passport, then you can go to the immigration line. During busy hours, this waiting time can be anywhere from 30 minutes to sometimes over an hour, especially if a bunch of flights arrive at the same time. Before you book your trip to Vietnam, here are a few quick questions that confuse a lot of travelers. First, can you switch from Visa on Arrival to an eVisa? Not really. These are two separate systems. If you already applied for one, you usually need to continue with that process or just apply again from the beginning. Second, can you enter Vietnam by land with Visa on Arrival? Nope. Visa on Arrival only works if you arrive by air. If you plan to cross a land border, you have to use an eVisa. What if your visa is rejected? For eVisa, rejection usually happens because of incorrect information or unclear documents. In most cases, you'll need to fix the issue and apply again. For Visa on Arrival, problems usually come from unreliable agencies, so picking a trusted provider is really important. And finally, can you extend your visa? In some cases, yes, but it's not always simple. Extensions often require working with a local agency inside Vietnam, and the rules can change, so it's better to plan your stay carefully from the beginning. At the end of the day, for most travelers going to Vietnam, the eVisa is the best choice. It's simple, fully online, predictable in cost, and it saves you from dealing with extra steps at the airport. Visa on Arrival still works, but it's really just a backup option for urgent situations when you don't have enough time to get an eVisa. And this is the most important thing to remember. If you choose the wrong visa, you're not just losing money. You could face long delays, extra stress, or even be denied boarding before your trip even begins. So take a few minutes, choose the right visa for your situation, and you'll save yourself a lot of problems later. Safe travels, and enjoy your trip to Vietnam.